Number 13. How interesting. Again, conversion therapy comes to mind. Cheating from the government. And a host of other actions fundamentalists engage in whilst waving around their so-called righteous, pious, holier-than-thou attitudes. Number 14. What is gender? What comprises gender? Is it perhaps different in the year 2018 to what it was in 1948, for instance? Number 15. Was gender viewed differently in the past? Number 16. Well, most certainly. The answer to that question, which I posed yesterday, my video from yesterday when I was at the Thames River in London, I had a good time there. Yes. Answer is yes. It is different. Number 17. In 1948, women stayed at home, women didn't wear trousers, and women weren't part of society like they are today. Number 18. Do times change? Does halakha change? Number 19. Well, certainly. Even amongst Haredi Jews, the role of women today is vastly different to the way it was in their grandmother's times. Just thought I'd mention, because some of my viewers might not know what Haredi means. Haredi means ultra-Orthodox Jewish people. Just thought I'd mention, put it out there. Number 20. Going back to the verse in Deuteronomy 22:5. Chli gever, cavalry. The pasuk clearly indicates that the prohibition was all about women dressing like men during wartime in order to deceive them. So there you go. It's about deceit. It's not about strict gender binaries. It's about deceit. Do not trick somebody. Do not deceive somebody, because that's wrong. And obviously, again, I'm going to encompass it and say, yes, it's all about conversion therapy. And it's all about forcing people into the wrong role. Absolutely. Number 19. Men wore different clothing 2,000 years ago. Very different to what they wear today. And so did women. Which leads us on to number 22. Transgender women and men transgender women and men is a very different concept to what it was in 1948 or 1822. I'm just using 1948 in these numbers as just off the bat. 70 years ago, 150 years ago, death was the only option for a person who was trans. They most probably either resorted to suicide or they resorted to no life, whatever that means. Number 23. Today, a transgender man and woman have rights which are far from perfect, not perfect yet, but nonetheless, we have way more rights than we had 70 years ago and 150 years ago. And for the most part, we are seen appropriately in our current gender. We are not viewed as our previously assumed gender. We are affirmed for the most part. Obviously, there are transphobic people who will never get their heads around it, and that's fine. Those people can get their heads around it, their stuff. I always tell people who insist on calling me a man's name and insist on saying that, no, you're a man, you're not a transgender person because transgender is not real, I always tell them, your stuff, your wall, your firewall. Not a problem. It's like you have a computer and there's a firewall. That's what it is. It can be penetrated. It's blocked. Gender is a human construct. Okay, well, I'm not going into that today. Number 24, which is why actually the verse is indicating quite the opposite of what fundamentalists would like us to believe. If a transgender person chooses to hide their gender identity, they're effectively committing a sin. Wow. That's a bombshell. Number 24, I won't go into detail on this matter, but suffice it to say that I myself was in deceit prior to my transition, mostly because I didn't accept who I was out of fear, denial, and out of being a people's pleaser. Plus a host of other reasons, which leads me on to number 25. Transgender was not accepted even 15 years ago the way it is accepted today. And so when I was in deceit and denial and delusion about it, it was, again, not really my fault. It was the way society viewed my identity, viewed my reality. Because there's a human construct, two genders was a human construct, and it's very much evolving and improving and getting better and better. But obviously, when I hurt people in the past, it wasn't so much my fault. It was very much down to the way it was perceived back then. Number 26, mistakes of the past could be rectified by raising awareness and stopping another person from hurting others by their denial. Which leads me on to number 27. And so this leads us to conclude that being transgender is not a prohibition. It's quite the contrary. Whereas conversion therapy and denial is a prohibition. And I'll make a summary and I'll say there are 3 tu'evas in the Torah. There are 3 abominations in the Torah, which I mentioned today. One of them is deceit in wartime, putting on the opposing gender's clothing in order to deceive men or women, which Rashi quite clearly indicates, amongst other commentaries. While Torah also talks about it being deceit and about committing adultery. Number 2, cheating from the government, cheating and being in deceit on the measurements. When you sell things and you don't sell the right measurements, you lie about it. That's called toeva. Your life will be short. That's sees it as an abomination. And number 3, which is a bit complicated to understand, but it's about 2 men lying with each other, and they don't lie the way 2 men lie. They lie the way a woman would lie. Which leads me to conclude that once again, I've put that all in one big package, the concept of transgender and the concept of being tuned in with your mental health and how you could control your own mental health. And it is actually a positive thing and a good thing from a Torah perspective as well. Have a nice day, and remember that you're going to define yourself in the present. If we define ourselves in the present, we have a bountiful, blessed life, and we have a fruitful religious or a non-religious life, if that's what you choose. And that's perfectly fine. Whatever works for you is the most important thing. But as long as you are truthful and congruent, life moves forward. If you have any comments, if you have any points you want to raise, put them down below, or contact me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and email, which are all listed in my profile here on YouTube. Thanks very much, guys, and thanks again to my amazing friends for your great support. See you later.